All things in all universes move according to law, and the law which regulates the movement of the planets is no more immutable than the law which regulates the material expressions of man. One of the greatest of all cosmic laws is that which is responsible for the formation of man as a material being. The great aim of the mystery schools of all ages has been to reveal the workings of which law will connect man the material and man the spiritual. The connecting link between the material man and the spiritual man is the intellectual man, for the mind partakes of both the material and immaterial qualities. The aspirant for higher knowledge must develop the intellectual side of us, of his nature, and so strengthen his will that it will be able to concentrate all powers of his being on and in the plane he desires. This is how you create your reality. The great search for light, life, and love only begins on the material plane. Carried to its ultimate and final goal is complete oneness with the universal consciousness. The foundation in this material is the first step. Then comes the higher goal of spiritual attainment. In the following pages, I will give the interpretation of the Emerald Tablets and their secret and the hidden esoteric messages. Concealed in the words of Thoth are many meanings that do not appear on the surface. Light of knowledge brought to bear upon the tablets will open many new fields of thought. Read and be wise, but only if the light of your own consciousness awakens the deep-seated understanding, which is the inherent quality of the soul. That's directly from my book, Companion of the Emerald Tablets. So now we're going to get into this, guys. Let's talk a little bit about the universe runs on natural law. So the general principles of natural law, we're talking about 7 principles that we're going to touch on a little bit here today. Make sure I'm going on time here. Okay, we're good. The first principle is the principle of mentalism. And this is where it's first because it's one of the most important ones in my personal opinion. And this is where a lot of people fall short in understanding or figuring out how to create their own reality and how things happen and how things manifest and how the future unfolds and why they're in situations that they're in. We're going to cover the principle of correspondence, the principle of vibration, the principle of polarity, rhythm, the cause and effect, which is one of my favorite as well, and then the principle of gender. A very powerful quote here from the Cavalion. The principles of truth are 7. He who knows these understandingly possesses the magic key, before whose touch all the doors of the temple will fly open. Where's the temple? This is your temple, guys. Not a building out there in the street, not this place you go to with a gigantic image on top of it that you think represents something that happened in the past. The temple is right here, right between your eyes. This is your temple. This is what this is referencing. It's not referencing a physical building where you go and put money in a plate. It's referencing where you put knowledge into your brain. The principle of mentalism, all is mind. The universe is mental. What we're talking about here is the universe is actually a thinking entity. And it has the capability of making things happen. As we know, everything is here. It has an energetic pattern to it that's intellectual. It has enough intellectual connections that it's actually conscious. So the universe itself is conscious. And this is proven to be when you look at a zoomed out image of the structures that create the universe, which are all the galaxies and how they're connected and linked. And then take an image of an MRI of a human brain. What do you see? They're identical. Human brain and the universe the same. Why? Because the universe is consciousness, as above, so below. And what we're talking about here is the fact that you have to understand you literally create your own reality. And that's just not something you hear people saying this all the time. You create, and it's kind of like, oh, people just say it all the time. But when you really dig into this and understand what it's talking about, Thoth talked about this thousands and thousands of years ago. This has been taught for eons in mystery schools. The fact that you have the capability of understanding this and creating your reality tunnel. See, collectively, we all participate in creating reality, collectively. But individually, we have our own reality tunnel that we have the capability of working in, manipulating, and even bending, as Thoth talks about in the Emerald Tablets. And this entire universe was thought into existence through this energy source, this main consciousness collective that exists. And you have the same capabilities because the universe can do it. That means you can do it. Because why? Because the universe is inside of you. No matter, when you look into the human body and go down, even down to the atom level, you're going to discover that it resembles the universe in every single way. One cell in your body is its own universe. One cell, just one cell. One cell in your body can do everything the universe can do, and vice versa. And now you have a collection of what? Trillions of cells in your body, literally. So you have universe, you have a multiverse flowing through your veins, through your body. And all the information that was used to create everything you see is flowing and coursing through your veins. And when you understand that, the second thing you have to understand is that your brain operates on a specific frequency, just like the universe operates on a specific frequency. So what happens is the universe, it only communicates good with high frequency communication. When you go to a low frequency communication, it falls on deaf ears. So one of the most important things to want to understand, and Thoth talks about this in Animal Tablets, and I cover this in my book, is the fact that to get your reality tunnel to go in the direction that you're looking to make it go, you must operate at a very high frequency. And people say, well, what is it? How do I get to a high frequency? Well, think about this. If you're looking at the news, CNN, NBC, Fox, whatever, and they're showing, you know, a lot of just death, destruction, murder, and all this other, the poly tricks and stuff that come on 24/7. And it's got you in a fear mode. We're going to war again, and my son's going to probably get taken to war, and all this stuff. Now, your mind is in a fright and flight mode, and now your frequency has dropped. So fear is a low frequency. And this has been proven in the laboratory. This isn't even like some kind of esoteric message. This is like real peer-reviewed science. When you're in a position of fear, anxiety, distraught, you're worried, you're angry, all those frequencies are lower frequencies where they've actually seen a cosine wave that they can measure, this frequency wave, touching less parts of your DNA as it flows through you and out of you into your torus energy field. When you're at a high frequency, you're thinking forgiveness, love, unconditional love. You're thinking happiness. You're thinking about powerful things happening to you in your life. You're thinking about great accomplishments. You're thinking about health, good health. All these types of thought patterns, those types of thought patterns bring on a higher frequency where the cosine wave is actually shorter, which means it touches more of your DNA on its way out to your torus energy field. And this torus energy field, you're projecting this at all times, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, as long as your avatar body's alive. But the information starts up here, and then it's transmitted into the field, okay? So when you're thinking from a position of power, unconditional love, happiness, that's when you're at a high frequency. So to get to a high frequency, start loving people, start forgiving people, start blessing people. Yeah, you can bless people. You don't have to rely on another entity or another deity that you can't even see or talk to bless anybody. You can bless people. The power is already in you to do that. You can be thankful for people. You can be thankful for what you have. All those are high frequency thoughts. And when you do that, now you're at a high resonating frequency. And when you do that, now you're able to do things like create your own reality tunnel. And I give people examples all the time. If I'm going somewhere that I know it's usually like a busy spot, like a busy mall, or I'm running late to a place like a movie theater or an appointment, I visualize the place that I'm going to before I get there. And I actually visualize parking spots being available, because one of the biggest problems is parking. I visualize those parking spots. And I visualize 2 or 3 parking spots being open at some point that I can pull into and park within a timely manner. And then I not only envision it, then I command it, and then I say it. These parking spots will be available to me when I arrive at my destination. When I get to my destination, what happens? Parking spots. If you don't believe this, try it yourself. Don't laugh at it, and when you do it, you gotta really truly believe it. This is just a very simple, small exercise that you can do. Elevators. If you're in a busy place and you need to get on the elevator a lot, you can mentally call elevators before you arrive at the elevator. These are small things that you can do when you're practicing your mentalism and how to literally utilize the mind to impact the world around you. It's not magic. It's not magic. It's that you have to be on the right frequency with the universe. And what happens is your brain has billions of magnetite crystals inside of it. These magnetite crystals literally have the capability of syncing with what I call the Christ consciousness, or the elite consciousness that exists. And that consciousness will then sync with the universal consciousness. It's like a quantum entanglement. So first you synchronize with the first crystal, which is what they call the Christ consciousness. And then the Christ consciousness is already entangled with the universal consciousness. And now what happens is it creates this well, this gravity well that bands and warps around your mind that allows what you want and need to fall toward you. instead of away from you. And this is what happens. See, in a low frequency mindset, the warp field is bent away and things are falling away from you. You're getting into more and more situations that you can't handle. In a situation where you're in quantum entanglement with universal consciousness, now the warp field is around you this way and things are falling in toward you. Things you want, things you need, people you need to meet, windows and doors that need to open for you to accomplish your goals and so forth. That's a lot of the mentalism that's talked about in the book. The brain, let me just check for the time here. Okay, we're doing good. Let's take a look at the brain here and the neocortex. Now, you didn't think that the Matrix movie was calling him Neo for no reason, did you? They're calling him Neo because he is literally, they're referencing a part of the human brain. And the neocortex, Latin for new bark or new rind, is also called the neophallium, which means new mantle. It's the part of the brain in mammals, and it's actually the outer layer of the cerebral hemispheres, made up of 6 layers labeled 1 through 6, 6 being the most innermost and number 1 being the outermost. The neocortex is part of the cerebral cortex, along with the archaeocortex and paleocortex, which are cortical parts of the limbic system. In humans, it is involved in higher functions such as sensory perception, generation of motor commands, spatial reasoning, conscious thought, and language. And you thought it was just a name. No, it's a lot more than that. The human brain is a very powerful, powerful receiving device. It receives consciousness, it receives information and analyzes it and breaks it down on a consistent basis. And there's a famous experiment as well, another experiment that happened where they took people into a laboratory, and this happened by accident. They were trying to find out in the human brain how it would respond to images of love and happiness or images of hate and destruction and evil. And so they put this special cap on the participant's head, which had these electrodes that would read the brain waves, looked on a computer to see, okay, if we show this person a picture of the bed of roses, how does the brain respond electronically? We show them a picture of a person, that just got killed. How does the brain respond electronically? If we saw them a picture of a person that, that, for example, one of them was actually a person getting murdered, how does the brain respond electronically to that? So these images were spaced out about 10 seconds apart because they wanted to get time for the feedback from the brain to the computer. This was done about 15 years ago now. So computers weren't as great as we have them now. Probably right now would have been a lot quicker. What happened? Okay. So these people are they don't know each other in individual rooms, dark rooms, cap on, looking at a screen. Picture shows up, bed of flowers, transmits to the computer. They see what the readout is for that. Next picture shows up, person getting murdered. They see what that image is, transmits to a computer. After a bit of time, they started to realize something really weird started happening. The human brain, without the person even knowing what the next image was, because the images, remember, were 10 seconds apart, it would start reading out to the computer what the next image was going to be, whether it's going to be horror or it was going to be serene. It knew up to 7 seconds in advance what the next picture was going to be. We're not living in real time, guys. We're living in a delayed system. Evidence of this, the fact that there's a delay in between the time that it takes a photon to bounce off of. Right now, you're looking at a computer screen or a cell phone, whatever you're looking at to watch this presentation. It takes a bit of time for a photon to bounce off the screen that you're looking at to watch me and watch this presentation, hit your eye, go back into the brain and be deciphered so that you can tell what it is. So even you looking at me in this presentation right now is happening in the past. Every single moment is a fleeting moment. You're not looking at me in real time. You're seeing what I did probably a Planck unit ago, okay, or Planck lengths ago. So this is how it works. So this is amazing stuff that the human brain is receiving information from an outside source. It happened already before the person in real time, what we consider to be real time, was actually past time, so it happened. This is how powerful the brain is. Your brain is receiving consciousness. It doesn't create it. This is an important thing to know. I really do believe that we're living in a fractal holographic universe. I talk about this a lot. Some of you have seen my talks about it. And it doesn't mean that we're not real. It means that we're living. It means that the method used to create our reality has to do with fractal technology that's created by an outside source. So yes, according to the ancient books, the Bibles, the Quran, the tablets, the Sumerian tablets, the Mahabharata, any ancient text you go into, any ancient civilization that has a verbal history handed down, they all will tell you the same thing. No matter where you go on this planet, we're living inside of a creation. That is true. What's never really fully explained until more recently, the way where we can understand it, is how this creation was made. I don't believe that it was from a person in the sky with a magic wand. I really believe now, after doing a lot of research and digging and understanding a lot of this esoteric information and reading the Emerald Tablets and seeing what Thoth is talking about, we're living in a fractal holographic universe. Now, the fractal holographic universe is not something new. This is ancient. However, rediscovered in more modern times by Dr. Benoit Mandelbrot, where he rediscovered this mathematical equation, very short mathematical equation that literally lays out the foundation to build out universes. And evidence of this is there's a video game called No Man's Sky. And in this video game, No Man's Sky, this fractal universe is in there that has 80 billion planets with life forms, unlimited life forms on each planet, on a disk that fits into a console. Why? Because the power of that one simple mathematical equation that puts it in there that allows the next frame of reality to occur as we need it. So like Pope talks about in the Emerald Tablets, like I talk about in my lectures, like quantum physicists and quantum mechanics and experts on quantum theory talk about, when you're not looking at something, it's not there. It turns back into a waveform, an electromagnetic wave. When you're looking at it, when you're observing it consciously, then it collapses back into what we consider to be solid matter. So we're living in a very fluid universe. We're actually in this fluid energy source right now. And consciousness directly affects it. There was a very famous experiment done called the double slit experiment, which I talked about before as well. And it's a tiny little box with 2 slits in it, microscopic slits, and they send little tiny particles through these slits and see what happens to them on the back wall. Well, the particles go through these little tiny slits and they create a pattern on the back wall, and like a digital pattern. But when you look at them, it turns into a wave pattern. Why is that? Because conscious observation basically helps to shape reality. I'm sorry, so initially what they would do is they would look at the pattern going through they didn't look at the pattern, they would just look at what's on the back wall, and they would actually see an interference pattern. So how can you shoot one particle at a time through slits and get an interference pattern? That means that the objects were not being observed, so they were waves. When we put the looking camera there to see how it was happening, it turned back into particles again. So it sounds a little complex, but very simply, it means that our conscious observation directly affects our reality and creates what we call solid matter, or collapses frequencies into what we consider to be solid matter. When in true reality, nothing here really truly exists at all. Everything here is an illusion. As a matter of fact, I'm not even talking to you guys. I'm talking to myself. And when you're talking to somebody, you're talking to yourself. We're all one collective consciousness out here collecting information and gathering data, transmitting back to one source. We're all part of that same one source. Locality is an illusion. Distance is an illusion. Separation is an illusion. Matter of fact, if I took all 7.5 billion people on Earth right now and took away all the empty space between their atoms, because atoms are 99.9% empty space, took all the empty space out of the atoms, I could fit every single human being into a sugar cube on this planet. Every human being can fit into one sugar cube if I took away all the empty space. That's what we are, guys. This is how powerful this information is. So let's take a look at some of this stuff. Interestingly enough, the term matrix, we'll tell you, we're living in the matrix, guys. The term matrix comes from much older religious texts. The matrix first appears in 1312 BCE when the Torah was verbally handed down to Moses. This information later made it into the Old Testament of the modern-day Bible, which was written over 1,000 years later in the 6th century BCE. In fact, the term matrix, the matrix, can be located in 5 separate verses in the King James Bible, but hardly anyone ever realized it. Exodus 13:12, Exodus 13:15, Exodus 34:19, Numbers 3:12, and Numbers 18:15. So I can tell you guys, I've been digging into this stuff for a very long time, okay? Shall bring thee, here's an example, shall bring thee into the land of Canaanites, as he sware unto thee and to thy fathers, and shall give it thee, thou shalt set apart unto the Lord, and all over the matrix. And every first thing that come out of the beast which thou hast, the male shall be the Lord's, the first alluding to the fact that the matrix is a womb. Now what happens in the movie The Matrix? Where does Neo get wake up from? He wakes up out of the womb, an artificial womb, and he's ejected from the matrix. See, in the movie The Matrix, Neo wakes up from the embryonic womb only to find the rest of the world was still asleep and enslaved as a power source for the machines. His mission is to help free the slaves. In the book of Exodus, which is actually the second book of the Torah, the book tells how the Israelites escaped slavery in Egypt through the strength of Yahweh, who's actually Enlil. They didn't realize they were being manipulated. The God who has chosen Israel as his people. See, so this is ancient stuff, guys, being used in modern entertainment. But a lot of people are just slip right by it. But when you get to a high level of consciousness and you're into this type of information, these things light up on the screen when you see them, like lightning bolts. You know, that's what happens to me, like lightning bolts, and I immediately dig into them. Reality is built out of thought, and every thought begins to create reality. Edgar Cayce. So one of the biggest things that I'm involved in my life, and some of you who follow my other account, Coach Billy Carson, it's more like for entrepreneurs and manifesting and trying to find a way to live life outside of the matrix and dabble in the matrix and live it because we're here, but at the same time know how to step out of it when you need to. Is I talk about not only building your own business, trying to get yourself out of the financial matrix, but also trying to live a life where you enjoy what you do, try to be on vacation, but working on vacation, and trying to reach and obtain high levels of goals, which is what I talk about there a lot. And I utilize something. I utilize this first Hermetic Principle, which is the power of thought, mentalism, to help manifest my reality. Once I discovered how to do it, I was already doing it, and everybody does it. When I really found out how to focus it and make it happen on a consistent basis is when I really began to see a lot of amazing things happen. I literally can do and have whatever I want. And that's the mentality and mindset that I always have. And when you doubt that, that's when it doesn't happen for you. You have to truly believe in it and feel it inside of you, deep inside your heart. So I talk about it all the time over there, the fact that I manifest things. And I use Facebook and Instagram on some of my accounts as a vision board for things that I want to bring into my life, whether it's a new car, whether it's a trip that I want to take to go explore somewhere, whether it's an investment property that I want to get involved in so that I can utilize that revenue to eat, take care of my family, whatever it is. I help myself by manifesting myself, by envisioning those things, posting about them, talking about them. I even have a private group that I have that's called the Billionaires Owners Club. And in there, I put things that only billionaires would have because I'm trying to manifest that type of mentality and lifestyle. It's not because I feel that money is the biggest thing and most important thing in the world. I just feel like I can help more people if I'm more well off financially, because a lot of the things that need to take place on this planet are going to require a lot of money. And if you think that you can just sit back and just make posts on the internet and change the world, it's probably not going to happen that way. It's going to help, but you need to have people plugged in with ordinary, powerful people. And I just happen to be one of those people that has the capability of doing that. It's not for everybody. But if you're trying to manifest something like a brand new Toyota Corolla, you're trying to manifest something like a brand new job that helps pay you better wages so you can take care of your family better. You're trying to manifest moving from an apartment into a house. All of these things are possible. The energy and the power source is already inside you to make that happen. All you have to do is first visualize it in your mind. I mean, literally see it. Don't just like, oh yeah, I want a new house. Well, what kind of new house? I could show you today on my phone. I was on Zillow today. Zillow is an app with houses on it, okay? Because we're looking to move into a new property. And I'm looking at properties and we're picking out properties and we're getting an idea of the kind of property, how we want it to look, how we want the interiors to look, how we want the driveway to look, how we want the backyard to look. And then we're finding them and we find ones that we like, then we're screenshotting those and we're putting them on our vision board in our group chat that we have so we can actually see them and look at them on a daily basis. And then also looking into, well, what would the payments be? What would the mortgage be? What would the insurance? What was this? What are all these aspects of owning this property? What's the maintenance upkeep going to be on a property like this? All these aspects need to be considered when you're trying to manifest. You can't just be like, oh, I want a new house and walk away. You say, no, I want a new house. This is very specific. This is the kind of house. This is the kind of backyard. This is the kind of front yard. This is the kind of size I'm interested in. This is the amount of bedrooms. I want 4 bedrooms. I want 5. I want 1. I want 2. Whatever the number is that you want. Think about those. Write them down then. Also write them down. Piece of paper and a pen. Remember that stuff? Now you're focusing on this manifestation. Now think about what it would take to be able to afford the payment on it, or you're going to pay for it cash, whichever one that you're looking to do. You're going to buy it outright or make a down payment and make payments. Start thinking and focusing on the income sources needed to generate that revenue to take care of that. So now you're focusing on, now all of a sudden you have energy being directed directly into this manifestation that you're looking to create. And you're not just throwing it out there, you're speaking it, you're writing it, you're taking pictures of it, you're visualizing it in your mind. And now guess what's going to happen? The universe is going to start unfolding and doors are going to start opening. Now this is where your intuition has to take over. You have to be able to realize when doors of opportunities are opening, or windows of opportunity are opening for you to take advantage of situations to manifest, help you manifest this reality. This is where a lot of people fall off again. They don't realize the opportunities coming to them. And this is where you can really fall short. You have to have the intuition, because windows and doors, they open, but they also what? They close. There's a short period of time that they open and close, and you have to be able to jump through when they're open. What does that mean? If you're looking to buy a property, let's say, for example, I'm just using the property as an example. And there's a opportunity for you to maybe take on a new job or a new independent contractor. So something came up that allow you to generate some extra revenue for that, but you really don't feel like doing it because you feel like you're a little overworked, or maybe you're tired, or maybe for whatever reason you just feel like doing it. And now they appoint that contract to somebody else. And now the house that you were interested in becomes available, and would have been affordable if you would have had that contract, but you didn't take that contract because you just felt like whatever. And now the house that you really want just became available. The one you really was like, this is the dream house, this is the one I wanted. But then you're like, damn, I just gave away a contract that would have helped me cover the whole down payment, or maybe even pay the whole house off. That's what I'm talking about. Little windows of opportunity will appear to you and come at you in different ways, but you got to have the future vision to understand that this is going to help me with something that I'm trying to acquire or something I'm trying to do for my family. You have to be able to put that together and utilize that in your life, okay? So let's talk a little bit about general relativity. I kind of touched on this earlier, but I want to go into it a little bit better. General relativity is a name given to Einstein's theory of gravity. This has to do with the curvature of space-time and how mass or gravity can actually warp or bend space. We as humans have the ability to bend the matrix to our will using nothing more than our mind. Imagine that the matrix is a space-time and our minds are the gravity wells. Everywhere that we go in the third dimension, we create warped space in the matrix. Okay, so this is important to understand. So if you look here, this diagram, this image that I have here, you see the Earth, all spatial bodies create a warped gravitational field or warped space around the body. There's warped space around your actual avatar right now. It's bent. Space bends around objects. The more mass, the more the bend. Okay, that's why suns create supergravity, because they warp. They have so much mass, they warp space in a way that a lot of things fall directly toward them. That's why a lot of the asteroids fall towards the sun, not away from the sun. All right, so keep that in mind. Now let's replace the Earth with your consciousness. I use Albert Einstein here, good old Albert Einstein, to represent your mind, just because obviously he was an intelligent person. But his brain, your consciousness, will replace his space with your face. You're now sitting in space-time. We're all sitting in space-time. Quantum entanglement has to occur for this law of attraction to happen, for this manifestation. So your mind now has to be on a high level frequency to sync with the Christ consciousness, or the universal consciousness like partner. There's two particles out there. One is the conscious level frequency vibration that you synchronize with, and that frequency and that flower of life frequency is then synchronized with the flower of life universal consciousness. And so what happens is you can see the arrows go down as your frequency mind is connected directly to this consciousness, this high level thinking, and you're thinking about manifesting an object or a thing or a love or whatever it is into your life. And then it synchronizes, because it's high frequency, with the universal consciousness. The law of attraction is allowed to occur in your life. And that gravity well, those bends around your consciousness, your face, that's where all the information, all the opportunities, all the ability, all the things you need to make things happen are falling directly toward you. And then your intuition has to come into play and recognize that those things falling toward you and utilize them as tools to accomplish the main goal of manifestation. That's how it works. It's not magic. It's not all this other kind of stuff. It's real unified physics that allows this to happen. okay? And what is quantum entanglement? Scientists discovered, actually, Einstein called it spooky action at distance. You take two particles and use a laser and do something called parabolic down conversion, where you get the both particles on the same frequency. If you had the capability, you could take one particle to the other end of the universe, literally. And then you can change the information in the particle that's local to you, and the other particle will change instantaneously, bypassing the speed of light. That's quantum entanglement, proving that distance is even an illusion. We're all living on this energy grid, okay? So this is amazing stuff that modern science is now quantum entangled multiple particles together. I think they've done now several molecules, which is amazing. So in the future, you'll see something like subspace communication, which is one of the things that we're working on at the Space Agency. One of our research and development projects is a subspace relay. And how does a subspace relay work? Well, we have four crystals, special crystals. These crystals are specific, special because they're on a specific frequency and they've all been quantum entangled. So 3 of the crystals get put into 3 different satellites and get sent out to deep space in a region that's being explored, or we know in the future will be explored. They create an array. They all synchronize back to the crystal here that's local at the control station. If you're out there in a ship in 100 years, you want to send a signal back to Earth, and you're out there by Jupiter, it would take 3 months for that signal, that message to get back to Earth. However, if you're out there by Jupiter and you send a message to the local satellite relay, which may only take a couple of hours, that array will transmit that information back to the local crystal here on Earth instantaneously, bypassing the speed of light, meaning communication back and forth can be done from deep space back to the home base. This is some of the stuff we're working on developing using this same universal unified physics and this type of spiritual technology. This is real stuff, guys, and this is all talked about in my book.